Hi everybody, I'm Ron the Marvelman at themarvelman.com. Today, tip number 13. Comic characters on the silver screen and their impact on comic books and comic sales. Well, as I look back, as I often do, to the Silver Age, that was my era. I still think that Marvel Comics had probably the best idea, and they had the biggest impact on my childhood. As a young kid growing up on Media Parkway in Garden City and walking fondly, and I say fondly, up to Mrs. Nix because the excitement was overwhelming, to open up the brand new shipment of comics that came in. I worked at the corner store. It was my first job, made about $7 a week. Okay, she fed us, she gave us soda, and all we did basically was empty the trash, sweep out around the front. And but the biggest highlight of that whole walk up there was the anticipation of opening the comic books. And back then, by the way, comic books came banded in chicken wire. It was a very heavy gauge band. Usually went across both ways and almost like a sign of a cross. It was about 1/8 of an inch thick. So when you get comic books that you buy and you see what's called impact dents, it is from the wire that they used to put out from day one, from the 40s, I'd say up to the 80s, until they start using plastic bands. Like I said, personally, I love Marvel because I was introduced to Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. Okay, the combination of these two historic icons in the business was overwhelming for a 9-year-old kid. Jack Kirby's, Stan Lee's description of each panel's action, coupled with Jack King Kirby's incredible pencil depictions of each character. It was a lethal combination to a 9-year-old boy. It was my first impression of comic books and comicdom. I was first introduced to the Fantastic Four in September of 1962. I can remember it like it was yesterday. It was issue number 3. And in there, I realized that Jack King Kirby was truly the king of comics. And Stan the Man, you know, his writing was almost unbelievable. But I was overwhelmed by Kirby's art, because that's really what you look at as a young kid. You don't spend a whole lot of time reading. You spend more time looking at the panels, correct? All right. But in those panels were in the Fantastic Four, and now it was 9 pushing 10, so that's when I first laid my eye on Sue Storm, drawn by Jack Kirby. And I gotta tell you guys, that's when I first started to realize that besides comic books and cars that I truly loved, girls were starting to slowly come into the picture, and Jack Kirby could draw a killer girl, Medusa from the Frightful Four, and my all-time fave, Crystal from the Inhumans. Remember Johnny Storm's girlfriend? If you don't know that, pick up the Inhumans. Start around Fantastic Four 45. I think you'll like it. Also, there's some issues in Thor. Little gems. That's what we're talking about here. But as far as value, you know, well, let's get back first. I don't want to get ahead here too far. As far as being a shock that they're on the silver screen, absolutely not. I mean, if you truly collected comic books back in the era that I did, you knew that there was something big going to happen for these characters. The way they affected us as kids was almost unbelievable. So the fact that they're on the silver screen today, 30 years later, is absolutely not a surprise to me whatsoever. That's where they belong from day one. That's where they are right now, and that's where they will be in the future. Now, as far as their impact on, as far as comic book value and comic book buying, no. Short term, you know, people got there who never seen a comic character before and decided, hey, I'm going to go to the movies to see Batman. Wow, Batman's pretty cool. But usually it doesn't trickle down to digging in their pockets after spending $20 for 2 people to go to the movies and saying, hey, I'm going to start a Batman run. So it really doesn't do a whole lot there. But what it does do is bring more of the younger kids into the business, which we definitely, absolutely need. We cannot lose our young people. And the big comic companies, okay, should remember that that's their future market. Do away with the clones and do away for things that just confuse the young people. Make comics fun, enjoyable, readable, and they will stay with you for years. Look at me. And then, finally, the influx of new writers and new, very, very talented artists should not be the success should not be far behind. The combination of the concept teams, very, very important. That's when they put great artists and great writer together. Important that these companies have to put these teams together. Now give the artists the artistic freedom they strive for and deserve to maintain the integrity and longevity of this great comic tradition. Thanks again. This is the Marvelman. See you later.